So this is episode 4 of Fox Thoughts, which is a small little thing that I decided to come up with yesterday. So that way it's just kind of a little bit of a mini series. But this topic is about letting go and a thought. So it's continuing on from the previous episode that I just did about letting go and acceptance and death. So before I start the topics I'd like to talk about, I'd like to say that the names of those I mentioned in the previous video and the ones that I'm going to mention in this video, I mentioned because they have importance and great significance in my life, and they may be mentioned late in. They may be mentioned later on in other videos, and I'd like to make it easier on myself than always to having to say, my friend said, or the friend who listened to me while my grandma was in the hospital said, or my friend who taught me a bunch of stuff and how to deal with my depression said. So that was just a side note for that. And today, I'd like to keep touching on the subject I ended my video with, as I just said. Letting go. And if it's the same between letting go of a certain relationship and letting go because of a death. In my honest opinion, I think that they're different, but in some ways they are the same. When Nick and I had broken up, he told me that I was treating our breakup as a death. As if I was mourning him and I was mourning the loss of him. We had separated in the early month of January so that, we could grow and become individuals. But it was later on decided that we were still dating. And so he and I broke up around 2 weeks before the month of January ended. But when we had separated the first time, I was mourning him. He pointed out, like I said, that I was treating it like a death. And after thinking about it for a while, I thought, you're right. I am treating it like a death. Because you're the only other person that I have ever actually loved like I loved my grandma. If any family members are watching this, I'm sorry. I do love you, and I do feel love for you, but there's a certain connection that I had with my grandma that I didn't have with anybody else, until Nick came along, and that's just kind of how I feel. But I think that they are the same. Because you're still experiencing a loss to an extent. There's a difference. There's a slight difference, I think, between the loss of, having a boyfriend and the loss of losing a loved one. Technically, you're still losing loved ones, but one is still here, the other is gone. And I think that's what makes the difference of the idea of letting go. Like I said in my previous video, I still talk to him. I still do things with him, and he's still alive. As to where with my grandma, not necessarily so. So, are they The same? Yeah. Different in a way that I actually can't explain. But yes, they are the same. Another thing that helped me find comfort in the past with my grandma's passing, this is the thought that I wanted to talk about, was a thought that I had come up with, and that I honestly forgot about until now. And that was this: you're never going to have the same kind of relationship that you had with with another person. Everyone is unique, and so are relationships with one another. Nobody can ever have a relationship with a friend or family member as you do. And the most comforting thought is this, because that is the best thing that you could ever ask for. Therefore, you should not long for somebody else's relationship with another person. You should long for and desire your own. And that didn't only help me with the passing of my grandma, but it also helped me with, in the past, around the time that I had first thought of this, it had also helped me with the idea of the relationships that I have with my other friends and family. You know, with my friend Nathaniel, who I've known for almost 5 years now. In September, I'll never have a friendship, a relationship with anybody else like I have with him. He is a unique person, and the way that we think when we talk to each other is different. We still have the same mindset, we still have the same personality, we still have the same everything, but it's just different. The way he talks to me and the way that I talk to him is different than he would talk to his parents or I would talk to my family members. Even if there are similarities within that. The relationship I have with Nick, I'll never have with anybody else, because Nick is his own unique individual, just as I am, and he has his own thoughts and everything like that is different when, say, he talks to someone that he doesn't talk to as much, or that he doesn't talk to as much as he talks with me. You know, there's I would say a level or a boundary that you have with someone where you can go to a certain extent, you can go all the way, and that just honestly depends on the relationship with your friend, not with your person. They're not your person, but I think that's definitely what it is. It's always going to be unique. It's always going to be different. And that is honestly the most comforting thought that you could ever have, or at least that I could ever have. You know, how would I put this? It can be a sad thought, for example, that somebody else is going to come along and they are going to be treated like you were treated. You know, that there is no separation, that your friend treats everybody exactly the same. For me, that's actually kind of a scary thought, because I would like to, be important. I would like to be unique. And in all honesty, that is what we are. You know, we want to be unique. We want to be different from everybody else. We want to have something special, be it romantic relationship or not. And the honest truth is that we are. We may not think it, we may not see it, but we are. Nathaniel or Nick or my family members aren't going to have the exact same relationship with somebody else that they have with me. It's always going to be different. It's always going to be on a different level. And that's a pretty comforting thought for me, because then it's like I'm not going to be replaced. I'm not going to be forgotten or left behind. That being said, remembering that every relationship is unique, and the kind that you see in the movies, be it having 4 friends and great sleepovers over the summer, or to having the perfect guy for you to be the one who was your friend for all of those years, shouldn't be desired. They are a fantasy. In my opinion, they are a fantasy that can ruin great things ahead for you. I remember that I couldn't wait to turn 16. I could not wait for years. That was my desire. That was my dream, to be 16. I couldn't wait to turn 16 so I could drive and have my own car. And I thought, I'm going to get all of those best friends like in the movies. I'm going to be able to go for drives, and I'm going to be able to have my own car. And honestly, when that didn't happen, I'll admit I was a bit disappointed and a bit unhappy, until I realized what kind of friends I actually wanted. I felt left out, and like I didn't belong with the 2 friends that I did have at the time. Until I realized that I was okay with who my friends were and that they were the perfect kind for me, I spent days hoping that I could make another friend, one that I always wanted. But every time I tried, it never worked out, and I didn't understand why for a while. They just weren't my kind of people like I thought they were. Yeah, they had certain things that, like, kind of made me want to gravitate towards them, like, oh, they think this way, I want to talk to them. But they weren't my kind of people. And just that's how I think it is. I remember being able to see somebody in high school and think, I like that person, I want to be friends with them. It only worked out with a handful of people, and at the time, only 2 of them ended up being my friends for longer than a year or 2. Only 2 of them didn't end up pretending like I didn't exist. But even as I looked at one of those 2 friends, I kind of knew one wouldn't be around for much longer either. So as I said my goodbyes to him, as soon as I was certain, it made me a bit sad, but I knew that it was going to happen. I knew that it was going to be a thing. But I'm still happy to say that my other friend, who I mentioned earlier, Nathaniel, is still around. And like I said, we'll be friends for 5 years this coming September. Since then, I'm still able to tell who may and may not be around in the years to come, and admittedly, there's still some anxiety that those who I do think will continue to stick around will end up leaving me. But that's one thing that I've just got to trust and believe them like I have been doing. Others that I've been friends with for years, I feel have chosen me and decided that they wanted me in their lives. And that's why I'm still around. In their lives, and they're in mine. But I also had to choose them for myself to some degree, even if I didn't know it. An example of a friend like that would be my friend Taylor. I've known her since I was maybe about 14 or 15 years old, maybe before that. I'm bad with time, so maybe she'd know better than me. But I'm 20, going on to 21 now, and I'm surprised that I've known her for so long, but even more than happy to have known her for so long. At the same time of meeting her, I didn't think she would be in my life for years to come. But she has been, and she's been such an amazing friend. She's like an older sister to me, which is really nice because I always wanted an older sibling. So maybe she chose me in a way just as I possibly chose her. I know how I choose my friends, but there are others who just kind of choose you without you knowing it until you think about it. Or maybe you both choose each other and it works that way too. And in all honesty, well, before I continue on to that thought, I would like to say that maybe you do both choose each other, and that's how it works. I mentioned that as an option. I mentioned that others choose you without you knowing it. You choose others, kind of without them knowing it. And you both choose each other, both knowing that you're choosing them, but not knowing that they're choosing you, I guess. And I would like to say that that's probably the best option. That's probably the most likely option because I know this is a term used for a different thing, but it takes two to tango. It takes two people to want to have a friendship and to make that friendship work, or any kind of relationship. And relationships are work, which isn't a bad idea for another video. But anyway, back to what I was saying before. I'm happy for every single friendship or acquaintanceship I have ever had, true friend or not, as I've learned a lot about myself, and I've gained many experiences that I may have never had. Or maybe I would have had them, but at a different time in life, and that would have possibly changed the outcome of my life and how I think. If our lives aren't already set for us, of course, as stated in the previous video. Or if our personalities change, which is a possibility. There's a lot to talk about there. But thinking back on the idea of one of the first two videos, which I guess I just kind of started to do, was it really my choice? Did I really have control over who I wanted, over who I knew I wanted to be my friends, or were they originally meant to cross my path no matter what? Bringing me to another question. There's a lot I want to continue to talk about. But do other parallel universes exist? Possibly. I think so. But if so, how many are there? And are there other parallel universes to go with that parallel universe? And is the universe that we're living in right now a parallel universe? And we just don't know it. That's definitely something to ponder. Those are definitely questions to ponder, and that I wouldn't mind thinking about at some point in the future and making a video about it. But that concludes that for this one. Have a good day, everybody, and I will talk to you later.